All right. It looks like it's recording. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to our Beyond the Basics workshop this afternoon, using Google Tools to explore beyond the classroom. We're very pleased you've been able to join us this afternoon. As Kimberly just mentioned, the webinar is being recorded. So, this computer. Before we get started, I'd just like to pay our respects to Aboriginal people around the country, and also to acknowledge the land we are on at the moment, wherever that happens to be for you. I'm on the Gold Coast at the moment, so I don't have one of these lovely pictures, but we've got all these beautiful artworks that we had some artists create for Google, represent all the different parts of Aboriginal Australia. So wherever you are, welcome, you are on Aboriginal land. And Steve, over to you for New Zealand.
Kia ora whanau. I'm Steve from New Zealand, so I'm just going to do a little paying respect to our ancestors over here as well. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa, kia papatuanuku tēnā koe, ki te whare tēnā koe, ki te tūpuna tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa, ti hei Māori ora. So what I did there was just said, welcome to everybody, paying respects to both Mother Earth, and the house we're in, and also paying respects to our ancestors, and welcome you all here today. So thanks for having me along, team. Let's go.
No worries, thanks, Steve. And speaking of Steve, just to introduce the team here, we've got Steve Smith from New Zealand. Steve is the country lead for education in New Zealand. We have Kimberly Hall, who looks after the southern part of Australia, basically. Victoria and South Australia, and I think a little bit of Tassie sometimes, and myself, Chris Betcher, who looks after our adoption programs across Australia and New Zealand, and a little bits of Asia Pacific as well. So that's the team. Feel free to reach out to us. We've got our Twitter accounts and email addresses right there. We're more than happy to hear from you if you have any Google related stuff you need some help with. Just before we start into the main event, I just want to point out, we have two great sets of tools that we talk about here as part of, when we say Google for Education, we're really talking about two main things. One is Google Workspace for Education, which is our software platform of Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Classroom, Jamboard, all those great tools you probably know. Really pleased to say that we currently have about 140 million students and educators currently using Workspace around the world, which is pretty significant. We're pretty proud of that. And those key features there, the fact that it's collaborative and cloud-based, and it's got all sorts of machine learning and smart AI stuff built in. So it's a great platform. And of course, the second part of our Google for Education platform is our devices, our Chromebooks, these lightweight shareable devices, quick to boot up, batteries that last all day, and secure, shareable and affordable. And the reason I mention that is because everything I'm going to show you today, or we're going to show you today, actually runs on a Chromebook. And so, I hope you come away from this afternoon session going, wow, that's some pretty impressive stuff that you can do with all these tools. Just be aware that a Chromebook is all you need to make these things work.
Yeah, all three of us are currently driving Chromebooks at the moment. So
that is correct. That is correct.
I feel like we should clarify that none of the three of us are driving anywhere right now. We are.
I'm sorry.
We are behaving very responsibly and sitting at a computer. Darren has just said that Jess is in the lobby, Chris, still. So you need to go back and check that, please.
Yeah, that's what I do.
There you go.
All right, fix that. Sorry about that. Yep. So, okay. So. And it's gone out of presentation mode. We'll put that back in. So we thought the theme of today, really, we wanted to talk about this idea of how you can bring the world into your classroom, or the other way around, how you can get your students to go out and explore the world without obviously leaving the classroom, because that's not always practical. So we've got a great set of tools that we thought we'd spend some time talking about and digging into this afternoon. A lot of them are what we would term Geo Tools, and I know I don't like using that word very much unless you're a geography teacher, in which case, like Steve, you get very excited about it because Steve's an ex-Geo teacher.
Not there's anything wrong with that, Chris.
Not there's anything wrong with that at all, but it's interesting, if you say Geo Tool to the average teacher, they just kind of go, oh, I assume it's for geography teachers. And that's not what we mean at all. We simply mean tools that use mapping and location-based stuff so that you can use that technology to sort of go and explore your world. It's not necessarily about geography per se. It's just simply about using the tools of global exploration. So let me put it that way. And one of those, which is probably the least of a Geo tool at all, and that is arts and culture. And I'm going to pass over to Kimberly Hall here, because I know Kimberly loves digging into arts and culture, and she's going to take us through.
Yeah, but I'm not. We discussed how I was going to go at the end when hopefully my internet's better.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, but we just Juliet even's nodding, because Juliet was on the call. We were discussing that you were on, Chris. So we're going to actually go to Steve Smith, and Chris, you check the there's nobody waiting in the lobby while you stop sharing as well. And we will cover this off. So
right. Let me stop sharing.
All right, well,
okay, I'll pass over to you, Steve.
What's that?
I will pass over to you.
Okay, thanks. I'll grab a tab. So let's start. Come on. All right. So yeah, I'm a social studies and geography teacher. I was for a very long time, and it always gives me great pleasure to take people through a look at Google Earth. Google Earth was an old desktop thing, an old clunker that no one understands why it still works. It's basically now been updated and works on anything, and it has a huge number of capabilities and applications. Now, when you jump into earth.google.com, you come to this page here, and one thing I always say to people is they kind of go here and they click up on Launch Earth, but if you scroll down, there is actually a whole lot of resources down here that tell you how to use Earth really, really well. And for those of us that are kind of my age, when we see this little picture here of Carmen Sandiego, we get incredibly excited because you can actually play Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego on Google Earth. So it's a really cool challenge you can throw out amongst your students. So you keep scrolling down, tells you all about the stuff. So first hot tip is actually scroll down when you get to this place rather than just getting excited and clicking straight into Launch Earth. On the little drop down, we have some more from Earth, and there are a whole lot of other things in here to have a play with. Some really, really cool things you can do in there. But I will do what I said we shouldn't do and jump straight in and launch Earth. So let's share this tab. So we launch Earth. It's all web-based, as I said before. It was updated to try and make sure it would work on lots and lots of things. And it has had a huge number of changes, especially looking down the left-hand side. So what I like to do is kind of, if we want to do the thing that everyone does, of course, we click on this, and it takes us, can we guess where this is going to take us? Anyone? Bueller?
To your house.
It's going to take us, everyone, to my house. So this little click button down here is the place that everyone goes first of all, and what it will do is fly you to your house. So I've switched off my my security settings to allow it to go to my house. Let's see if we can go. There we go. So we'll fly.
I think isn't it a better idea, like digital safety wise, to not go to your house on a publicly recorded broadcast webinar, Steve?
True. There's my house there. There it is. I live in the camp. So
now they'll go and rob someone else's house, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. So we can go to our own house. Now, down the left-hand side is a whole pile of really cool menus. Thanks for that hot tip there, Kimberly. We can slide the top out and find a whole lot of menus. Now, one thing that is a really, really cool little thing that came in is this lucky dice. And the lucky dice is I'm feeling lucky. If we click that, it will take us somewhere in the world. And there are thousands and thousands of places on here. I've never been to this place before, but you can jump into a place. And it's a really cool thing to be able to just jump in somewhere, and all of a sudden you have a prompt for writing, for description, for maths, for all sorts of things that you can jump into here on. So that's the lucky dice. That's the I'm feeling lucky. Now, we are here at this place. Let's zoom in a little bit. We can grab this amazing little ruler down here and click on that, and we can do some measurements. So we can do some straight line if we want, or we can also join them all up and go dunk, and there we have a perimeter and an area. So there's, again, some really cool maths applications here. We can also drop that down and change how we want to measure things. So a whole lot of well understood measurements there. Centimeters, meters, kilometers, nautical miles, and of course the smoot down the bottom. There's a fantastic story of the smoot. If you want to know what a smoot is, do a quick search. It's a great story. See if any of your kids know what a smoot is. I bet they don't. So you can do a whole lot of cool measuring. You can measure things at your own school and figure out how much bigger and smaller they are on the screen. So measurement tool, fantastic. There are some layers. There is this little button here that allows us to create some projects, and we'll come back to that later on. But what I want to do really quickly is jump into this, the Voyager wheel. Chris and I were really lucky a couple of years ago to go and see this unveiled. And when this little button was shown, I think there was a room of about 50 of us who were educators. And when they clicked this little button, everyone did a woo. And it was one of those moments when it was really, really cool to be in the room. So this is called Voyager. And Voyager is a bunch of stories that are curated and designed by a bunch of really cool partner organizations. They are stories that are placed on Earth. So you get that geolocation idea, and you can go around. Oh, I haven't seen that one before. Sorry, I do this. And you'll find these things that are really cool stories. So I'm going to click into that one because I'm a bit of a magpie, and I like to go into things that look cool. So we have this splash page telling us what it's all about. We can click Start Exploring, and it will take us to these places. So fly us into Santa Cruz in California, and you'll go right in. Now, the really cool thing again about this is that it shows you where things are, and it gives you that really nice idea of locational understanding around the world. Okay, so this gives us a really cool view of the area, gives us some information down the side here. We can click through the different panes, and it will take us around the world to all these different places. J Bay in South Africa, fantastic surf break. So we can click back because I'm going to spend days in this. I can tell I'm going to come back to this one later on. So that's one of those really cool stories. The new one's got the top and all the new original stuff. So if we go back here, you'll notice there are a number of different headings along here. So there's games where you'll find those Carmen San Diego games. There are layers, which actually bring in data layers. There's some street view, culture, travel, and of course, here we go, education. So the education ones, again, are curated by some really cool bunch of people. So architecture, there is geometry over here of castles. This one is an amazing story about the Underground Railroad, which is the journey of the slaves north through America to Canada. And it puts their stories again on the map. Oh, look at that one. It says New Zealand. Fantastic. I didn't organize that earlier. There are some really, again, cool ones. We can start to think about this one here is brilliant for getting students' understanding of just how lucky they are about where they are. So this one's called This Is School. And it flies you around the world and shows you what school looks like in different places. So again, if I just click on Start Exploring, it will fly us away from J Bay into what school looks like in different places. And I think if we look at this as a prompt for discussion, it's a really amazing resource. Now, the great thing about this, again, is it's all web-based. You can grab the link and you can share them. So you can fly people straight to a story if you want, or you can just let them go for it and have a look at the latest ones that are put out there. So the Voyager stories are a really beautiful bunch of resources that you can use for all sorts of things.
Now, I'm glad you chose that one, Steve, because one of the things I want to talk about as part of what you're saying here is the street view imagery inside Earth. And so what you've just done there is zooming into these school rooms that you can click and drag around and move around in sort of a 360-degree spherical image. And so when you finish showing this, I'm just going to jump in and start to talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, if you get a bunch of kids, and I was a social studies teacher, so I'd immediately say, if we have a look at these kids here, how do you think this little kid here, what is this little kid here thinking about at the moment? What can you hear when you're standing there? What are they thinking about? What's their experience like in this place? Do you think it would be easy to learn in this place? What are some things they need to think about? So yes, this is Google Earth, and it's kind of says, Geo teaches off you go and play with geography, but I think there's a whole lot more to it that can be used. We had a colleague who used to present things. He would get his students to write in Spanish about what it would sound like, or write a story based on what's happening here in a different language. So many different things you can use this for. So that's all in that Voyager button there. Clicking over to the different headings for education, travel there, or culture, some really cool resources. Now, they do change all the time. So if you find one, bookmark it and come back to it. There's also a really great one called This Is Home, which looks at homes around the world, and they've looked at lots of different types of what is home. So really cool stuff in here. One thing I always say when I show this to people who have never seen it before is get a coffee, clear about an hour or so, and have a good dig in, because you'll start to find things that will go, oh, I can use that, I can use that, I can use that. So yeah, Chris, show us about
Steve, before you do that, I can ask a question, please.
You can.
I may have tuned out, so if you addressed this already, just
that's me talking, so I'm not surprised.
Sorry in advance. But when I'm digging in to this and exploring them, you mentioned that I should bookmark them. Did you show me how to do that?
I did not.
Well, I'd like to know how to do that, because if they're going to move, it's going to frustrate me when I come back in and I can't find it again. So if you could just help me know how I could find this again quickly and easily, that would make my life much, much better.
For sure. So to bookmark the page is like bookmarking any other URL. Unfortunately, because I'm sharing a tab, you can't see my Omnibox up the top there. So if we highlight that and just click on save.
Oh, we're just bookmarking in Chrome.
We're just bookmarking.
Oh, can someone put a feature request into the engineering team for Earth and make some sort of system where we can do it inside the product already?
Just save this.
Come on. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of people that nodded, so I think that's pretty much a consensus that everybody would like them to do that. If you could get onto that, Chris or
by the way, Steve, you're only sharing a tab, so we're not seeing your URL bar.
He did say that, Chris Betcher. I'm not actually sure that you're listening at all.
Says you.
My question he hadn't addressed, at least.
Steve, there used to be, and I can't think where to get to it now, but if you do find a resource, you like sending it straight to Google Classroom. Can you still do that?
That's a really good question. I don't know if you can.
I know I thought you used to be able to, but
let's get these feature requests. Where's John Bailey? Let's get feature requests going on.
All right, good.
So yeah. So again, because it's a because it is web-based, you can just grab the URL off in the Omnibox there. If you go into the search over on the side here, I'm looking at the wrong screen. I'm clicking on my screen up here. I'm going, why is it not working? So if I go over here, there we go. If I go, if I just type in home, it will give me some guided tours. So searching for homes, stately homes, different guided tours. Finding home was a great story about Saru Briley, who got lost in India and used Google Earth to find his way home. So a movie made to give us some nice coverage about Google Earth. So you can just go into a search. It will come up with places. It will also come up with the guided tours down the bottom. You see the little ship's wheel there. So really
Can I
great.
ask another clarifying question?
And
I know you two love it when I ask clarifying questions. I'm trying to be channel the questions that people are yet to ask mentality.
Nice.
So you mentioned before about the tours moving, and so you need to bookmark them. When you say moving, do you just mean not displayed in the same list in the same way, or do you mean they disappear?
Will be revolving all the time with new stuff. So when Halloween comes around, the Halloween ones will pop up at the top. So they'll still be in those areas under the same headings, so you can go back there. But there's so much stuff that I find a quick bookmark or grab the URL and chuck it in a doc of stuff I'm going to use again just means that I know where it is and I can come back to it.
Okay, and I also feel like that like Carmen Sandiego brings back so many memories of many moons ago that I feel like you didn't really do enough justice of pointing out that that's
I'm
in
really sorry about that. So
yeah,
we're going to go Carmen like that. Where on earth is Carmen Sandiego's? I think the Tutankhamun's mask caper. Now, the great thing about this, Google Keep. Awesome. Great point, Darren. Grab the URL, chuck it into Keep, and it's on all your different devices. A brilliant point. So here for Kimberly especially, because Chris is looking at me going, dude, I said I was going to take over here, and now you're still talking.
Keep going. All good.
So the lovely thing about this is it looks old school computer games as well. Okay, so give it to your kids, set it as a race, make it actually a race to find Carmen Sandiego. So you get some nice descriptions of what you need to do. Let's go. And it's on Earth, but it has on the right-hand side these really cool little bits that look like the old school Carmen Sandiego game. So whole bunch of clues, figuring out where stuff is in the world, having a guess, going back. It's really, really nice idea. It's beautifully done. and it's all on Earth as well. So there you go. That's Carmen Sandiego to look at it for you. So go and have a play with Carmen Sandiego. Give them to your students. Make it a race.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Carmen Sandiego predates Google, which I think makes it like it's such an interesting thing that like showing kids this that's a whole cultural lesson in itself around, you know, we actually had to load this. What did we have? Floppy disk? We were shoved in a computer, and you probably had to buy the floppy disk and load it onto the computer and then get it joystick. I think I played with a joystick. So yeah, it's just my quick Google. So original was in 1985, Carmen Sandiego.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
I was only 2.
No, you weren't.
Steve, while you're sharing, would you mind going somewhere on Earth, and we're just going to show people how the Street View stuff works by using the peg person, non-gender specific person thingy?
Gender non-specific peg person, yeah, for sure. So yeah. We'll jump in here via Earth, the place I was supposed to go last year and supposed to go this year, and I'm not mad about it at all. But anyway, so if we zoom on in, let's do this. So let's go down the main street, eh? So we can zoom right in, and I'm going to grab gender non-specific peg person. Oh, should we go to the beach, or should we go street or beach?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I just want to point out to people that when you drag that little person off the perch there, all those blue lines and blue dots appear, and what they represent, the blue lines is where the Google Street View cars have driven. So we have these special cars with the cameras on the roof that take 360-degree images, and we've driven them around a big chunk of the world, and I'll show you that in just a sec. But the blue dots that you see, so there's the Street View, and you can see down the bottom left-hand corner there, it actually says Google, and there's a little green and yellow icon there. This is indicating that this is an image that was actually taken by Google. So Google have gone around and gathered all this imagery around our world, and you can drop peg person pretty much anywhere on the planet and just go exploring. And Steve will point out here that if you grab peg person again, instead of dragging him onto the lines, you'll notice all those blue dots appear. And the blue dots are generally where a person, not Google, but just an individual like you and me, who might have either a mobile phone with the appropriate app on it or a 360-degree camera, can actually take our own photos and contribute to them to the map. And so if you drop them on any of those, maybe one of the dots.
Yep, here we go.
Here we go, zooming in. Yeah, okay. So that's zooming in there. And you see it zooms in and then switches. And you can see this one was made by David Carmen, not San Diego, Carmen.
Oh, my goodness. I could not have planned that better. No, this is David Carmen. It's Carmen's.
So David Carmen, which is San Diego's brother, is taken this photo and just dropped it onto the map, because you can contribute to the map, and, of course, it gives you these Street View images. And the neat thing about the reason I want to point out this Street View thing is because, you know, we've driven our cars around a large chunk of the world. We've got a lot of Street View imagery that we've dropped onto both Google Earth and Google Maps. And so you can take your kids to pretty much anywhere in the world using our imagery. But if you want to take your kids to, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the Sahara Desert to see what a desert looks like, or to North Korea, where we haven't really been invited to drive the cars around, or to China, or to, you know, Antarctica, where it's a bit hard to do this sort of stuff, we haven't been able to officially create these imageries for those sorts of places, but other people have. And so I think when I make this blanket statement, there's almost nowhere in the world that you can't visit using a 360 image. It really is true. And it's not that Google haven't done it, but people have contributed. And so, yeah, it's almost everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Steve, if you just stop sharing for a sec, I'm just going to throw my screen up here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And while you're doing that, there's been some interesting points put in the chat. So thank you to those who are sharing. Please do share anything or ask any questions at any point. It doesn't even actually have to be relevant to what we're talking about. I tend to like to ask irrelevant questions. So if there's anything that you would like to know, then please do drop it in the chat. And we do love hearing ideas of yours being shared, because, you know, we're very privileged to get to work with lots of different teachers and lots of different schools all around, but everybody has different ideas for using these tools, and it's so valuable to hear from others as well. So please do continue to use the chat. And Steve, I did drop in there that Hawaii doesn't look very nice, so don't feel bad about. I mean, like, I didn't really like it when I was lucky enough to go there, so you didn't miss that. Don't worry about it.
No.
So that Street View stuff that we just mentioned, I always think it's worth just when I was teaching this to my kids, I always used to show them just this site because I think it puts a lot of things into perspective. This is just google.com/Street View if you want to take a look at it. And it's the Street View website. But what I'd recommend is you come over here and you click on the Explore button in here, because when you go down there, it explains a little bit about Street View and how it works. But what I think is interesting is if you go down here, it will actually tell you right now where the Street View cars are currently driving. So if I switch this to Australia on this list, you can see that wherever you are in Australia right now, like I normally live in Sydney, and you can see in New South Wales, the Street View cars are currently driving around the Sydney area. If you're in Queensland, then expect to see them in Brisbane, Toowoomba, Townsville and Cairns driving around. So it's sometimes really interesting just to know where the cars are. Kids find that fascinating. And if you scroll down even further on this site, you can see that map there and all the bits that are shaded in. That's where we've officially gathered the Street View imagery. And as you see, like I mentioned, places like in the middle of China and the Sahara Desert and, way up in the steppes of Russia, haven't been so good at getting our cars up there. But we've done a pretty big chunk of the world, and the rest of the world is pretty much covered as well. So the Street View site itself is actually worth poking around as well. And the reason, Steve was just showing you Google Earth, and Earth is fantastic, obviously, but it is kind of resource heavy. So it does take a moment to load, and it does kind of, require you to sort of sometimes either have a powerful computer or just be a little more patient. So if you're looking for a more lightweight solution for looking around your world, you can simply go to Google Maps, just the consumer level mapping service that most of you find your way around with. And you have the same sort of thing here. So this is the Gold Coast where I'm currently sitting right now. And if you drag Peg Person off the perch there, you'll see again, all the lines appear. There's some dots there. I can drag Peg Person and drop him on a dot there, or him or her. And now I'm standing on the beach here at Broadbeach. So, I just mentioned that because although, yes, you've got all the great Street View stuff inside Earth where you can explore almost anywhere, Maps is kind of a lightweight solution to do a similar thing if all you're really looking for is the Street View aspect of things. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff in Earth, so I'd recommend that instead. But, this is a good alternative for those times where you don't need the full clarity.
Just want to click on the City Snowman there, on the three dots beside where it says Broadbeach to Miami, up the top left.
Yeah.
Just click on those three dots.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the share or embed, you click on that, it'll actually give the embed code. So if you go embed a map, that one there, that will actually embed that image into a Google site, for instance. So you can grab the embed code out of there and embed that picture, which is a fully functional 360, into anything you can do flash embed codes with. I don't really understand what embed codes are, but if you grab it, you can make it work.
That is true, and great for kids who are using like a Google site as the documentation tool for a project they're doing. So they might be learning about different places in the world, for example, so they can create a site, write about it, and then drop these 360 images into the site. So that's a really good tip, Steve. Thanks.
Totally.
No worries. I might. Have you still got Google Earth loaded, Steve?
I have.
It might be quicker if you can just bring your screen up again, if you don't mind, and I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Let me stop that. Okay, if you want to bring yours up, because the other quick thing I just wanted to show people was the 360 imagery inside Earth as well. And again, if the theme of what we're doing today is about exploring your world and taking kids out into the world, the 360 stuff, sorry, not 360, 3D, I meant to say, the 3D stuff is pretty fascinating.
Hang on, let me just change my tab. Here we go. Share this tab.
So if you want to come out of that Street View image, and I notice because you're in Waikiki here, can you just rotate your Earth a little bit and tilt it?
Yeah.
So what Steve's doing there, just to move around, is simply dragging the mouse on the screen. So he's clicking and dragging on the mouse. But if you hold down the Shift key while you click and drag, you actually rotate and tilt the Earth. So you can manipulate the Earth and sort of view it from all different angles. And the interesting thing, those buildings you can see there, they're all computer generated, and it's done by using a technique called photogrammetry, where we take a ton of photographs from either aircraft or drones, and then we use artificial intelligence to stitch those images together to basically assemble a 3D model. And we've done it in tons of places around the world. We haven't done it everywhere in the world, so there's still plenty of places where it still appears as a flat satellite image. But in an increasing number of places around the world, we've got this 3-dimensional imagery as well. So again, yeah, in terms of exploring a world and going and having a look at things, that's a pretty cool way to do it. You can see Diamond Head there, the big landmark that Steve's zooming in on right now. Not only are we capturing buildings and rendering those in 3 dimensions as well, but landmarks like mountains and valleys and stuff as well. So to go somewhere like, I don't know, Mount Everest or the Grand Canyon, where you've got really unique landforms, to be able to take kids and look at those as well, and you're actually seeing the landform, not just the 3-dimensional buildings as well.
Around kind of Vegas, if you go into the Hoover Dam, which was obviously built to power Vegas, you can zoom right inside the Hoover Dam and have a look around. That starts an amazing conversation with, is hydroelectric power really that clean? When you look at the massive lake that's formed up behind the Hoover Dam and flooded huge amounts of landscape, is it really clean? It's a nice provocative statement,
Yep. So anyway, so that's Google Earth, and again, sticking with our theme, the whole idea of think of something that you're doing, whether it's in English or maths or science or religious studies, whatever it might be. Like if it would help to take your students on an excursion or a field trip to somewhere, but obviously you can't do it because of difficulty of getting there. These tools can provide a pretty amazing alternative to exploring your world. All right, I'll just pause for questions. Great for novels too. Yes, Juliet, that is true. Done some work with kids where we take a novel that mentions a lot of places and we actually map them out on Google Earth or Google Maps, and they get to see it that way. Pretty neat. Kimberly Hall, would you like to talk about arts and culture?
So I'm currently on my phone because my computer is not working. So someone else is going to have to.
I will do that. Okay. No worries.
While Chris is getting Anzac Cove all sorted out, Anzac Cove, arts and culture all sorted out, I just flew into Anzac Cove, which again is one of those things that we can, really kind of share an experience of Anzac Cove being Kiwis and Aussies. And again, if we use that imagery of having a look at what Anzac Cove actually looks like, I'm going to zoom back a bit. You can look at that and look at the landscape of that place. So when it comes to kind of Anzac Day every year, we can have a look at this whole area and really understand what it was like.
Oh, sorry, Steve, I kicked you off. Sorry about that. I kicked you off by mistake early.
That's okay, mate. No problem at all. No,
all right.
You just go ahead. I was setting the scene.
Okay, cool. So one of the other ways you can explore your world, because not everywhere is a place that you might want to explore. You might want to look at artifacts or historical items or art galleries or museums. So here's the other great tool for exploring your world, and that's called Google Arts and Culture. It's a site at artsandculture.google.com. And by the way, if you haven't figured it out yet, that's often the way we name our websites. It's artandculture.google.com, docs.google.com, earth.google.com. There's a bit of a pattern there, right? And so when you come to arts and culture, what this is a collection of thousands of cultural artifacts, museums, galleries around the world that you can go and explore from the comfort of your classroom. So I'm just going to go up here to the top corner to the 3 dashes here, and a couple of areas here. One is collections. If I click on collections, it will take me to this page here, which has all sorts of collections, primarily for museums or art galleries. And Kimberly, just jump in if I say something that's you want to add to, of course. So for example, MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. Let's go and visit that. So I'll click on that, and it will jump us over to the MoMA gallery. And you can see I can come down here, learn a little bit about it. I like there's a bit of gamification that they've built into this as well. So as you do various things on the Arts and Culture site, it will award you badges. So I've just earned the Museum Explorer badge for exploring the museum. I'm going to see all my badges. Let's see what I've got here. I don't normally use this account to do this, so I don't have many badges here. My other account I've got.
Well, I like how you're coming up with excuses straight away, Chris.
You should have seen my other account. There's heaps.
You should see my other account, yeah.
It is a pretty new feature. If you've played with arts and culture in the past, the badges is a pretty new thing. And if Steve said we needed to get a coffee in an hour to look at Earth, I recommend at least 3 or 4 hours for arts and culture, because when you start looking at some of the things that Chris will show you in terms of experiments and things you can play in here, it's like a labyrinth of, it's like YouTube when you go to YouTube to watch a 2-minute video and emerge 3 hours later.
Exactly. So I've just scrolled down here in the MoMA collection, and as you can see, it's given me a whole bunch of items that are part of the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And one of my favorites has always been Starry Night, so I'm just going to click on that one, and it'll bring the painting up here. And now I used to be an art teacher, so I used to teach out of a book called Helen Gardner's Art Through the Ages. Some of you might remember that book from school. The trouble with art books generally is, the pictures are this big, and you can't always go and explore them the way you'd like. So one of the nice things about images in here, a lot of them have been taken with what we call gigapixel cameras. So they're very, very high resolution cameras. So this picture of Starry Night, for example, if I click on the little magnifying glass, it zooms me in, and you can see a little thumbnail on the side there. If I grab the little white bar and drag it across, it will zoom me in, or zoom me in, or zoom me in, and I can just keep going. And I keep earning badges. I love it. And if you zoom all the way in, you can actually go all the way down to the paint level there. You can see as I'm dragging that around, you can start to, really look at, the fine detail of this painting, right down to the cracks in the oil paint. So that's kind of an interesting thing for students to be able to do, to just explore paintings like that.
I'm just going to yes and that and say one of our good friends talks about using the zoom in thinking routine with that. So zooming into a particular point in a picture or a painting and, starting there and asking kids to think about what it is and what they might be able to guess using inference from that, and then zoom out and keep adding to the layers of complexity. And there's such incredibly rich conversation that can be generated from that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you take an image like that one, for example, and then you sort of zoom out and continue to look at it at different levels. If you were to go down a little bit below any of these paintings, you can actually view that in Street View. So we talked about the Street View thing before. So I'll really quickly do that. If I just do that, it'll jump me to the actual museum, and I can see that painting.
Hang on. Did they drive a car through the MoMA?
No, they have these little special mini trolleys with a camera on the top, so they do it a different way, but there's inside the gallery, so that's always interesting when you can do it that way. But yeah, so like you can explore paintings and collections, so that's one of the things you can do in here. Let's go back to the main page again, and so we looked at collections briefly. Let's look at themes. So when you go to the theme section in here, it divides things up into themes. So for example, here's a theme called It's a Wonderful World, inspiration for your planning your next trip. And I don't know what's in here because it changes all the time. What have we got? Artist meets machine learning. Oh, that sounds interesting. Let's do that.
Hey, Chris, I'm back on my computer right now. I can't promise it's going to stay that way, but I may have in my switching between devices missed. Did you mention that there was an augmented reality button, or did you just pretend to ignore that there was an augmented reality button below?
I didn't mention it. I saw it, but I didn't mention it.
I just think that probably people would probably be interested in what that is and how they could make that work.
It's Juliet's favorite part of it.
It's Juliet and I are like literally channeling exactly the same thoughts this afternoon.
Let's go back to it then. So we go back to a painting, and you'll see there it does have a view in augmented reality button here. But that's
will you do it on your telephone?
You need to do this on your phone. So if you have the Arts and Culture app on your phone and you load it up, and there's a link there for Apple or Android, you can explore this on your phone. And if you want to see what Starry Night would look like hanging in your house, you can literally sort of press the augmented reality button, and then it will, in augmented reality, it will project onto your wall. And if there's statues and sculptural things, you can put them in the middle of your house. And it's kind of fascinating to see the scale of painting sometimes. The things you think are very big are actually quite small, and vice versa.
That's the classic Mona Lisa one, that if you've seen the Mona Lisa in real life, it's literally the most underwhelming moment of your life because you can't get close enough to actually see it because it's like a postage stamp size. But you can actually put it in your house and realize, oh, it is actually kind of underwhelming in augmented reality as well as real life.
And there's 15,000 selfie sticks in front of it as well.
That's right.
I saw the Salvador Dali painting with the clock hanging over the tree, you know, the dripping clock thing at the National Gallery of Victoria a couple of years ago. And I'd always imagined it as a big painting, and it's only like a little bit bigger than a postcard. Was quite surprised by that. So, yeah, it is actually surprising to see art in situ.
I'll just add to that as well, because I know Darren put it in the chat a bit earlier, that if you don't have the Arts and Culture app for your mobile device, I would strongly implore you to add it, because it does have some awesome little functions and features. And Darren admitted that the art selfie is his favorite one in there, where you actually take a picture of yourself and it matches you to your image, to a historical image, so a painting. I tend to find it matches me often to like grey old men with beards, which I'm always like, I don't know the level of like offense I should take to that, but I'm going to keep it pretty low. But you can do some really cool things, and you can, I believe, is the color palette the one you can actually take a picture of things in real life, and then it'll give you like the hexadecimal codes for the colors so you can match. I don't know. So, it gives you the technical colors that you can do. Yeah, you put all kinds of filters on things. It's pretty cool. If you haven't got it, I would encourage you to get the Arts and Culture app. And if you have any sort of mobile devices at school, it can be a really fun one to play with kids as well. So, and you're going to talk about ending this, Chris, with some of the experiments for the mobile.
Well, I was actually going to, because you were originally going to talk about this, so I haven't dug into here recently. So did you want to drive?
Well, while you've got that page up, we're digressing into, there's a whole section. If you didn't see where, Chris, can you just show people how you got to that?
Sure, yeah. I just went to the...
go back the tab.
Go back, yeah. So I just went to the 3 dashes in the corner and went down to experiments. And so we use new page, which is this one, Arts and Culture Experiments.
Yeah, so there's with the whole experiments.withgoogle.com that you can explore, and they used to just talk about these as Chrome experiments. These are literally like the cool stuff that may or may not become like mainstream. Like if you're looking to challenge your students thinking about like what's possible, what might be coming, what technology could look like in the future, experiments are the way to go. But one of the ones, keeping on the theme of the mobile device, is on the Arts and Culture. If you go back at the last tab, Chris, sorry.
Yeah.
I know you're having fun, but it's literally, how we said 3 or 4 hours. If you go into experiments, you need to probably double the amount of time you need to play with Arts and Culture. Right up the top was Woolaroo, I think.
Woolaroo, this one.
Yeah, so this is a new experiment it's about preserving dying languages. And so there was one Australian, and I believe is there a Maori language in this as well, Steve?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, so basically what you do on your phone is you can take an image of something. So like if I took a picture of my mug here, it would give me the words for mug in whatever language I select. But interestingly, I actually did it with this exact mug. I probably should buy some more mugs. This is $2 from Kmart, and I know this is the one I did it with last week when I was playing with it. Didn't need to tell everybody that, but I just did. It actually came up with it came up with like tea, coffee, came up with purple, green, mug, cup and saucer. And what it actually gives you is, Australia, one of our dying Australian Aboriginal languages with that. Chris, we can see your entire everything. That's pretty cool, actually. So it's a really fun way of actually sort of thinking about, okay, what languages, how is language impacting our experience? Are you going to do it right now, Chris?
Yeah, try it, yeah.
You can also...
That mug's very boring.
So you suggested also I'm going to go and make Yugambeh, the Yugambeh people, that's the Gold Coast, which is coincidental because that's where I am. So let's see if it works.
Yeah, actually, when you launch it...
so what do I do? I just hold it up?
You can take a photo.
And you can take a photo? It doesn't just read it automatically? Okay.
I wonder what words it'll have for you, Chris Betcher. Gesture. There you go.
Gesture.
Yeah. Well, you're holding your fingers up.
Cup. Nugun.
Jaw, finger, eyewear.
And I think Chris...
Oh, wow. I saw a whole bunch of things in here, didn't it?
Yeah, and then I think if you click on the language itself, it actually takes you off to give you information about that particular endangered language as well.
Oh, this
yeah, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there you go. So it goes into, so there's not just Australian Aboriginal and Maori, but there is a whole lot of other languages. And yeah, it's a really cool sort of way of having that conversation with kids about.
And it's also teachable, and you can add words to it. So it's about not just about preserving the language, but also allowing, it's crowdsourcing basically language knowledge. So if there are words that aren't on there, you can add them to it as well.
This is cool. I hadn't played with it.
Hence I said you need 3 or 4 hours just for arts and culture, because you could spend 3 hours on this one experiment within there. So
yeah, absolutely.
But I think, that's one of my favorite things about all of these tools is that, there's that, that you can, that rich like place-based stuff, you guys are talking about as geo teachers, but there's also that rich cultural stuff and language stuff and understanding and, that builds tolerance and acceptance and empathy when we can actually start to talk to kids and bring them into spaces that, might challenge their everyday norm. And of course, you're playing with Blob Opera, but we can't hear your sound, Chris, because you're not sharing your tab, you're sharing your window.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good. But yeah, if you haven't played with Blob Opera, it's a lot of fun. I like it.
The other one that I shared last week, thanks to Steve, that if anybody on the call happens to be in lockdown Melbourne, yay for us, there is there is a collaborative puzzle. So in the experiments where you can actually play a virtual puzzle with your here's one Steve prepared earlier. You can share this out with any email addresses that you like, and you actually collaborate on the puzzle together. And you can make it easy, medium, or hard. Like I had to make mine pretty easy because not puzzles and aren't my greatest thing, but you can actually group the pieces together once you've matched them and move them in chunks or individually. But like, what a nice way of connecting and thinking about it. And you can pick from a whole range of different arts pieces from within the arts and culture collection that you actually want to have as it. And unlike real life, it doesn't respond to you just bashing the pieces together until they fit. No. They actually have to fit. So
that link I just dropped in there, if people click on that, I can see there's 3 people on here now. So you can actually play in real time and actually work together on a puzzle. Now, Chris, Kimberly, and I probably wouldn't do that because it would end up in fights, I think, probably, and arguments about who's not doing it correctly. Or I just get bored and start moving things around. So you can
I just wouldn't concentrate in any meeting at all. I would just be playing puzzles all day.
So you're right. So it's a really nice way. And you can go, you can go easy, you can go super hard where it splits it into many, many different things. Down the bottom here, you can simply go invite a participant, and you can then share it amongst lots of different things, however you like to share things. Nice. Areas, of course, is the shared classroom. So it could almost be like let's get some groups together. Let's start let's do a few of them together. Really nice conversation starter, an icebreaker. And if you want to see what Girl with the Pearl Earring looks like, it should look like, it's down the left. And if you also use your arts and culture app, you can turn yourself into the Girl with the Pearl Earring, which I did last week in a workshop. Held it up. It puts your face in the Girl with the Pearl Earring, and I look horrific. Horrific, in fact.
No, you look lovely all the time, Steve.
Thank you for beginning me there.
But there are also a whole lot of other, like if you go, you can literally play with experiments like forever. So we probably shouldn't go down that path of doing that. But also in lockdown Melbourne, I just discovered my Storytime, where you can actually record your stories. Like you record stories, and my kids can now get Google Home to get me to read them a story whenever they're bored, which is 95% of lockdown day. So didn't read enough stories probably to counteract lockdown, but that's okay. Okay, should we go back into the main part of arts and culture?
Yeah.
Who's driving now?
Steve's driving.
Yeah. Oh, Rocky, hang on a minute. I've gone too far. Right. I'm
okay,
really
I'm
sorry.
going to leave that. Has anybody finished the puzzle yet? There's people that were playing. There was like 5 people playing. Anybody? They finished it yet?
Okay, I'll leave that running. Let's go to arts.
Leave that running. There's 6 people playing. By the time you come back, leave that tab open and then come back to it at the end and see if they've finished it. You've got 9 minutes team that are working on the puzzle, you have 9 minutes remaining to finish it.
Ah, crikey, go forward again.
Steve, have you ever used a computer before?
I did last week. I'm just learning.
Okay.
So there's the blobs again. So yeah, you could shoot over the side here. And if before we were having a look at the Anzacs or Anzac Cove. So if we did a little search up on the top here, and I could just go Anzac Cove or just Anzac. And we can then get to a whole lot of stories or resources around the Anzacs. If I go this picture here, and if I really like it, I can go down here, I can save that. You can get kids to curate their own art collections and then to share them back again. Sorry, what are you going to say, Kimberly?
No, I was just going to say the other thing, and I don't know if it's on any of these that we haven't actually seen in any of our, I haven't seen the Explore Connections button, but I was going to talk about Khan Academy resources that are often associated with stuff in the arts and culture library as well. So you'll often come across section below the whatever it is that they're sharing, the photograph, the painting, the sculpture, whatever piece of art and culture you're looking at, there'll actually be like information effectively supporting a discussion around that comes from the Khan Academy. What was that connections thing, Steve?
So it was showing what the connections between the picture are. So it's either similar themes, similar images, similar colors, and it actually makes me think about another experiment called the Museum of the World. Now, we won't do it now because, again, you'll lose days, but it actually puts all the art from the British Museum and all the artifacts in there on a long timeline and then shows you all the links between them. It's an amazing, amazing thing. So, sorry, I won't go into that, but that's the Museum of the World.
Interesting. And the other thing that when Chris was looking at Starry Night, maybe no, when he's looking at MoMA before, when you are looking at things often in some sort of collection or curated list, or if you've searched for a particular element or you know, a color or something like that, you can view things on a timeline, and enables you to actually look at how things have changed over time. And that's such an interesting, if you're studying particular areas, you know, actually looking at the representation of them over time and how that's changed is such an interesting one. And I always do this with language because I was a language teacher, but the concept of something like gold, I find fascinating because it was the most valuable thing in the world, right? It was what everybody wanted for such a long time. And it's totally been, you know, superseded by oil and other things. And so just a Bitcoin, just to see, you know, it fading out over time effectively, and then looking at what replaces it is such an interesting thing. And you can also sort by colors and, what are you looking at now? Oh, gold.
Gold, yeah.
If you go down to click on the medium, click on that medium that was at the top.
Go back to gold.
Go back to gold. And then click on the medium. The top. There you go, that top. That one.
Which one?
Mm-hmm.
That one, sorry, medium. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. The one that
gold,
says the word
medium. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, gold is a medium. And so look, if you discover this medium, and so you can see this 31,000 items that match that medium, but it's organized at the moment by trends, is it? What's hot? And then you can change it by time. You can do a color palette representation of things as well. But there's so many different things that you could search for, and then just track the representation of them over time. And, you know, the representation of women is always one that, clearly being a woman, I often come back to, but the way that women have been represented in arts and culture over time has just absolutely transformed, thankfully. And it, you know, it can be quite an interesting exploration for kids to just explore. So I thought you were searching for stuff for a moment there.
Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, I mean, I think that the amazing thing about arts and culture is I have very little understanding of art. I am a bit of a thug in that way, but, and I'm not going to say and, I'm saying but getting into here, I actually begin to understand stuff a bit better. I can dig into stuff that's related and find some amazing things that really show me why was I such a thug at school when I probably should have taken an art class. And, you know, this one's really cool, looking at the different movements of art over the time as well.
Yeah.
We could choose that sort of thing as well.
And I think that's the key point. Oh, sorry, Chris.
I was going to say the historical movements link there as well, because there's a lot of things like I've always struggled to understand a lot of the stuff that's going on in the Middle East. Like I don't truly understand a lot of the conflict there. And then there's historical events like what led to apartheid and how did the fall of the Iron Curtain happen and what were the events that led up to that. So historical events that I think, are sometimes hard to understand. You can come in here and search for events and really start to understand the world a little bit better and what led up to, like, why was Nixon impeached? What was Watergate? What was that all about? So understanding that stuff sometimes is hard, especially if you didn't live through it.
And I think just like Steve was talking about with Earth, like the stories and the collections and the curation of stuff in here changes all the time. And at the moment on the homepage is a whole lot of stuff around Pride. And different pride movements around the world, because it's that time that we're talking about that. And so, it actually is constantly evolving and there's new stuff being added to this collection all the time. And, I will 100% say that art was like sorry, Chris Betcher, but
I thought that was Jeff Heil in the picture there.
Oh, yeah, I didn't love art as a student, but as a teacher, I love the value that this, art is such a different concept when you think about that cultural connection, that language connection, that representation, etc. We are at time, team, and I think most people have. Can you go back to the puzzle before we do finish off, though, Steve? Because I think it's vitally important to see where that's at.
Yeah.
Very good.
Pretty impressive team that are working on that. Pretty impressive. Yeah. There's 9 people in there now. Feel free to let us know in the chat if there's been any fights about where the pieces go. But it is definitely very distracting, Juliet. But it's a nice distraction. I really enjoy it. It's kind of like, we talk about doing those mindfulness activities. Like you can totally see how this could be a great mindfulness activity as long as you don't fight with the people, because you can't see them, so you can't fight with them over the pieces of the puzzle in theory. Just recentering and focusing on something a bit different for 10 minutes of the day can be pretty amazing. Okay.
The thing I like about this as well is that the puzzle pieces are all the right way. You don't have to do that whole thing where you're turning it. You're like,
when I was doing this the other day, I was legitimately thinking I needed to turn a piece, but that would be, I just was trying to put it in the wrong spot, clearly. Steve, do you have the presentation for today handy on one of your tabs, or could you make it handy? Because we just want to have, okay, thank you. We know we have people joining us from different places this afternoon or on the recording. And if you had any specific questions around the use of workspace tools or Chromebooks in your context, we have some key contact information for you, for people that you can reach out to in each of our major jurisdictions. So Steve will put that up on the screen in just a moment. And Sienna, let me just, if you scroll back up in the chat, you'll see the link from Steve. I'll copy it down for the puzzle. I'll drop it back in again if you like. Oh, there you go. Thanks. Look at that. I love the fact that I go to do something and somebody's already done it for me. But if you go into arts and culture generally, go right down to the bottom of this deck, Steve, please.
Sure.
Thank you. And display that last slide would be fabulous.
Best chance.
Thank you. So if you are in the South Australian Department, Victorian Department, or New South Wales Department, and would like to know more details about how where use of this, what's available, etc., in your particular contact, and they are your key contacts. If you are not in one of those locations and don't know who to contact, then the best person to contact is Chris or Steve or myself, and we can direct you to the key person to contact, or we can make up an answer. Either way. Yeah, thanks for joining us this afternoon or this evening or tomorrow or whenever it is that you watch this video. We are doing these twice a term, and then we do have monthly as well info sessions that are running around things that are changing and new and updates. So if you would like to, please make sure that you sign up for that, and the recording will be attached to the calendar invitation that Chris sent out, and then Chris will change that link to anyone with the link can view it. So feel free to share, but also please encourage others to register and join us, because there's so much rich information to share that we'd love to see so many people continuing to, push the boundaries in terms of what they're thinking. And if you are in Melbourne, take care, and hopefully you can leave your house and see some things in real life, not just through the computer soon. So.
Absolutely. I've just dropped the link for the slides presentation in the chat. So if you'd like a copy of the slides, feel free to jump on that. Take yourself a copy. You will find that all of those little circles that are linked will actually take you out to the actual tools. So the quick way to get there.
Awesome. And I am just going to stop the recording now, but if you are watching the recording and want the chat, it's the Google Doc that's attached to the calendar invitation for today as well. But if you have any issues with getting to those things, then just reply to the invitation email and we can help you out. So thanks very much. Feel free to hang around if you want to ask any questions. Otherwise, have a safe evening, afternoon, week until we see you again.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.